Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome one and all to another one of my live streams. I'm joined by the inimitable Stephanie Mitchell Hughes, a lady who is in fact a lawyer, but she's been through a lot of what she would refer to as hard places, come out the other side, and now uses her experiences to help people try and
Mhm.
be aware of the pitfalls of modern stress and really learn lessons of resilience from it. Today, we're talking about the impending leap year, which seems to have a rather deleterious effect on you, Stephanie. And we were just
Yes,
before we got onto this, we just started discussing this. So, first of all, tell me, please, a leap year. What does it mean to you?
a leap year for me has turned out to be a year of just very intense growth, emotionally, very intense growth. Dare I say it, spiritually, very intense growth.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
and just a number of different ways. And it's intense. The growth is intense because it is like I face adversity after adversity after adversity after adversity. And if I am not facing it, I'm facing that adversity or experiencing that adversity indirectly because it's a friend or it's a family member, loved one, etc. Then there's also the adversity that comes with that.
but
So
why? I mean, it just feels to me like you've attached a strong series of emotions and potentially challenges to something that is as natural as grass growing or the sun shining.
and that's true. I admit that, I acknowledge that, but it just seems that way. It seems as if some of the most challenging experiences that I have happened in leap years. Um, I'll just use 2020 as an example.
Please.
So we start 2020 off the very first week of 2020. A friend of mine, her house burned completely to the ground.
Wow.
And I just remember thinking, okay, here we go at that point. And then I started to experience death upon death upon death
Right. I
of
mean, and
people who I
beyond
knew
what you
and
would
never
normally
cared about.
expect. Beyond what you'd normally
And
expect.
then we go into COVID, which we all know what happened with that. We start having a pandemic, the world gets shut down. We've got something we don't know what it is. People are dropping dead all over the place. And I don't know about over in the UK, but in the United States, I can remember watching then Governor Andrew Cuomo used to come on and basically give a daily update of what was happening and how they were navigating and dealing with it. And I remember when they had accumulated, there were so many dead bodies that they were using ice coolers and using football fields as temporary morgues. And it really stuck out to me personally because my aunt had fallen and my cousin had to make the very difficult decision of putting her in a rehab facility. And at that time, thought, okay, I'm putting my mom here and it wasn't going to be for a long time, but so that she can heal and get better. And I'm going to come and see her every day. Well, she
Right.
put her in the facility, and the next week, the world shut down, and she could not go and visit my aunt.
Now, this
And
was not. This is, I've known a number of people who've had this kind of situation foisted upon them, and I think the worst part of it is there's no preparation for it. One moment you
well,
feel like
no,
you're in control, and next moment you'll have no
it's
control at
like,
all.
I mean, and you look at the pandemic and you think that is the ultimate of out of control. Unfortunately for my cousin, unfortunately for my really, really small family, my aunt really deteriorated. She stopped eating. Sometimes they would allow her, my cousin, to come in and feed her and talk to her, but she just did not. And she subsequently died. My cousin was allowed to bring her home because my aunt went into hospice care, and which doesn't necessarily mean anymore that the person is going to die. Some people go into hospice care and they come out, but in my aunt's case that wasn't true, and my cousin had to prepare for the fact that her second parent was going to die.
Right.
And so my cousin goes in, and this was June the 5th of 2020, goes in because she had brought my aunt back to her house, and my cousin goes in to wake her, and my aunt had died. And then after that, it just kind of goes on. The major thing, really huge thing that happened was when we were in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta, and we had traveled to Atlanta to go to my aunt's funeral. And because of
Right.
my parents' ages, I went to represent my parents because my dad was 86, my mom was 84. They weren't going to be able to drive from Ohio to Atlanta. That would have just been too much for them. And they certainly weren't going to get on a plane, which would have been too much.
Right.
And so that the day that my daughter and I get down there to Atlanta, my aunt's funeral was the next day. This was a Friday, June the 12th, and my aunt's funeral was on June 13th. And so I had talked to my dad multiple times that day. And unfortunately, later that evening, my dad collapsed and he subsequently died that day. And we've talked
Yeah.
about this before. And
Absolutely.
and you know how I was basically deer in the headlights, like what am and literally I do the one thing I do recall
It's
that
a
evening,
it's a lot. It's a
it
lot.
was
It's
a
it's
lot to process.
it's a series of punches. It's a series of body blows,
Yeah,
right?
it was a punch. And in the midst of that punch, I had I had to stay. I could not just leave my cousin because I was there on what I would call an assignment. My assignment was to represent my parents and stand with my cousin because, my parents could not. And I had to stay for my aunt's funeral. And even sadder, the irony of ironies is that June the 14th, that Sunday, was my parents' 62nd wedding anniversary. And the other irony of ironies is that my uncle, my mother's brother, my cousin's father, died 10 years and 1 day before my aunt did. So he
Right.
died on June 4th, 2010. And then we just kind of, the wheel just keeps turning. And it's like you said, it is a punch, 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 punch,
And
punch.
all of this on a leap year. So did this make you feel almost like that this leap year is waiting to give you a
Well,
good shaking up?
I mean,
Because I see
oddly
it, I
enough,
think this year, I think this is the first year that we've had since the pandemic. Since remember, there was a global meltdown before the pandemic,
mhm,
finance wise. Um,
right,
there, so you had the financial meltdown, small recovery, pandemic, which caused yet another financial meltdown, and that was then 2023 was a little bit of restitution and people gradually climbing out the holes, and then 2024
mhm,
theoretically we should all be ready to 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 push new through shoots through to grow on each of
right,
our
and
own
see,
enterprises.
and so like for me, the way that I started looking at this is we think, and I don't know about in the UK, you guys are keep calm and carry on. But
A little bit.
here,
A little bit, yes.
We are, I mean, it's like we have an inconvenience happens, something derails my plans, and people just melt down about it. And the thing that I've learned and just been reminded of is that life is not, mountaintop experience. And from mountaintop experience, it's not fun, 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 fun all the
No,
time.
no,
It
no.
is, it is, and sometimes, and maybe more often than we really want to. And I'll put myself in that. There are just times where you have to stand and face what is coming and take the punch and realize you're going to have to take some punches. You're going to have to take hits.
Yeah,
But
but
the
here's the
key,
thing. This is the
but you
difference
got to get
between.
up.
Yeah, but uh, 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 this is the difference in my mind
Mm-hmm.
between being the solid oak and the straw and the grass. You've got to be more like the grass. You don't have to stand up to the punch. Let the punch knock you down. You stay on the
Right.
ground.
No, the
You
punch is
stay
going to knock
down.
you down.
Yeah, but stay on the ground. Wait for the hurricane to blow over, and
Hmm.
then that's why I think 2024 is we're standing up again.
But the thing is
We've got to
that
push forward now.
I think you have to get up. You have got to. When I think about some of the experiences, I'll go back to another leap year,
Okay,
2012. And first let me finish out 2020. So then 2020, as if all these other things that happened were not enough.
right.
We've got this sea change. In December of 2020, I developed COVID. And that set me on a trajectory that has completely changed the direction
Well,
of my
well,
life.
hang on. The world developed COVID in 2020,
Right.
and
Well, no, I developed COVID-19. I had COVID-19, got diagnosed. And then I went from COVID-19, and the last 3 years have been long COVID, long COVID, long COVID, long COVID, whatever. But I'm not going to stick on that. I'll go back to 2012 to share what I mean by getting up. 2012, I'm a solo parent.
right,
And I had a job that was extremely toxic and extremely stressful. And for many years, had experienced some physical challenges that really stumped doctors. They thought that I had lupus, but didn't have a definitive one way or another.
right.
And so in 2012, symptoms that I had for off and on for years came back and they stayed. And ultimately, I wound up on disability leave. And my former employer, the department that deals with disability leave, which is different from the department where I worked, kept denying my request for disability leave. Now I'm a solo parent. I don't have any money coming in. And to make it more challenging, it was my son's senior year of high school. And
Right.
so all of the expenses that come with that.
Oh gosh.
So long story short, it took them 7 months to approve my request for disability leave. And I literally had no income coming in. My kids and we lost everything. I lost my car, I lost my housing. And then I had to try to get my son registered for school, for college, and to make sure that he had housing and everything else. And we just none of that. And so I can remember just spending days while I was on disability leave working the phones to try and beating the bushes to try to find money and all of that. And literally 6 weeks before my son was supposed to go to college, didn't know how I was going to pay for that at least first year.
Right.
And so even though I did not have money, even though we were facing like steps away from a homeless shelter, literally, even though I had to take 2 buses to work and back again, I had to get up. I couldn't just lay flat on the ground because my kids needed me as the adult, as the person who's raising them, leading the
You are the last.
household
You are the
to keep.
backstop. You are
Yeah,
the
I mean,
last
I
bastion.
am like that last line of defense. And
You
so
are.
basically, let me just say, when I talk about leap years, I'm not looking at it as, and I joke about this. We were joking about this before we went online. My whole thing is it's a leap year. I don't feel like growing this year. I'm happy where I am. So I'm going to get in bed on December 31st at 11:59, and you can come back and wake me up on December 31st, 2024 at 11:59 and 10 seconds to go, because I'm just going to sit this one out. I don't want I don't want to leave the impression that, oh, I hate this, I dread this. Oh, adversity is drudgery, growth is drudgery. I don't want to. No, because the whole purpose of it is to move you closer to who you are supposed to be in the first place, move you closer to your purpose, your life purpose, so that you
Right.
can go out and pursue and just be your best self. The other thing is that in order to fully experience joy, in order to fully experience and appreciate the life that you have, you also have to be willing to fully experience difficulty and pain and adversity. You've got to be willing to do that. Because the one thing that I have learned, because I'm strong willed, hard headed, and insist upon my own way, the thing that I have learned is that you're not going to get a free pass. So
No.
if the test is here, you're going to have to pass it. Or you can just spend 40 years roaming around in the wilderness, looking back fondly on the life that you really aren't supposed to live. You can just, it's like, okay, you chose not to do
Right.
it. You want to run, you want to do this.
So let's
Okay,
so,
fine.
so let's summarize our position for the kind people who are spending the days before they relax through this crazy period that we call New Year's. Let's summarize it because we've got to shut this down. So are you saying, uh, leap year or not, the only
Mhm.
way you're going to really appreciate all the good stuff that you can get is if you face the hard stuff with
Right,
the same passion that you enjoy the good stuff.
right,
Is that fair?
right. Hmm. Absolutely.
All
That
right.
is
And
what I'm saying.
on that bombshell, I'm going to say thank you so much once again, Stephanie. Do follow us. We do this regularly, usually on a Friday. Check them out. If you check out my feed on LinkedIn, you'll see a whole litany of times where Stephanie and I have set the world to rights. Please do follow us, and I'd love it. I do get people randomly, usually in Zoom rooms, coming up to me and say, "Who's that hot-headed Stephanie that you talk to a lot?" And I say that she's a lady of great experience and unreserved amounts of intelligence. You should talk to her. Anyway, so I'm just going to wish everybody a happy New Year and safe
Yes,
mental health. You got any last
yes.
words, good people, Stephanie?
Happy New Year, and I want people to have a safe and a happy New Year. And look at the
Fabulous.
2024 is coming.
Oh yeah. Take care, everyone.